going to kick things off with the Shield versus Evolution at Payback. This was the elimination match.
And it was a fun match. I would say in the series of Evolution and Shield matches, this is probably the best one. It had a lot of great spots in it, especially with Seth Rollins and some of the stuff that he was able to pull and some of the surprising high-flying moments that he had. This is the one where he dove off the Titantron, right?
It wasn't the Titantron, it was the... Was it this one? Because I watched both matches.
Yeah, it was. Because that was like when it turned the table, because you had like Roman Reigns or Dean Ambrose or somebody down there, and they were like getting beaten up on the stage. I think it was Roman Reigns. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, where's Seth Rollins? Because Dean Ambrose had came back into the picture. I think he got his ass beat down again.
And what I was thinking about was the balcony dive.
That was the one before that.
Shit that I'm like kind of confused. But yeah, it was this match with the Titantron.
Yeah, and kudos to the camera guy for not allowing us to see Seth Rollins get up there, because he really legit came out of nowhere if you were watching on TV. I don't know how it was live crowd, but it is what it is. It was a fun, entertaining match. Match of the year, I definitely see where it's considered, but not quite for me.
I'm not going to give off spoilers, but I really dug this match a lot. There are so many crazy things going on. And I think that the Shield really... This was like a great swan song for them. I believe they broke up right after this, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty close.
The night after.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty close. This 24 hours is pretty good, but that was a beautiful swan song for one of my favorite groups, one of my favorite factions of all time.
What I think a lot of people overlook with this match is it wasn't built like a traditional elimination, no holds barred elimination match where you have a guy get picked off of one team and then a guy gets picked off the other team. You had Evolution come out there and they had no damn cares in the world whether they pinned everybody, right? Like if they pinned everybody or not, they were going to beat the hell out of them. And then once they were through beating the hell out of all three of them, then they were going to try and start pinning people. And this match had some of its own little problems. I mean, you had some, but I think they'd kind of been worked out a little bit where you had people tagging in a match where it's no holds barred and there's no reason to need to tag in. So you had some spots where it didn't make a lot of sense, but they more than made up for it once they started to pick up and they got out of the ring and really started to show what the match, like the meat and potatoes of what they were doing. And I thought this match ended up being a fantastic match and definitely I'd say the best of all the Shield. Yeah, the best of all the Shield matches I think I've seen. So,
yeah, this was a really great match for me. And to pick up off of something that you said when you talked about how it didn't work in the way of a traditional elimination match, that's one of the things that really worked in the favor of this match. And all of the eliminations in the match came within like the last 3 minutes of the match. And I thought that was a cool twist to how we usually see things go in cases like that, because it actually worked out like a legit match. You're not gonna get too many big time main event matches on a pay-per-view end within 5 minutes. And when you look at elimination matches, people kind of let that stuff pass. Like, oh, somebody gets picked off in 5 minutes, we can just go on with the rest of the guys in the match. This actually worked out in a way where you gave the people a chance to whoop each other's asses, and they definitely did that. And you got to a point at the end, like I said, it took 3 minutes for Evolution to be completely wiped out. And just all of the storyline implications that came with this match, this is definitely a contender for Match of the Year. And what is also a contender, another match with the Shield, this was the Shield versus the Wyatt family at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look really fondly on this match because this was the first time that we got the culmination of the rise of these two factions as they were continuing to make a name for themselves. And it was the first time we saw what each of them can do when they have a competent faction to rival against. So it was a wonderful experience all around. It definitely came out of nowhere for me. I didn't necessarily... Well, I wouldn't say that. I did anticipate the match, but I didn't think it was going to be a Match of the Year contender. So it definitely merits that. So it was good. Definitely.
This is one of those situations where WWE hyped the hell out of something and it actually lived up to your expectations. Like I was saying, like my whole mindset was I didn't think it was going to live up to the expectation, because I remember going nuts when I saw Shield on one side of the ring and the Wyatt family on the other, and then knowing that they were going to come together for a match, just those two great factions, and it happened, and it was awesome.
I am so glad this match happened. When they were staring each other down, man, everybody got goosebumps. And we hadn't had a storyline like that in a while. Gang warfare, you know, two groups coming together and just beating the crap out of each other. Two warring factions. So I thought that was really cool. And the match itself did not disappoint whatsoever. It lived up. Not only did it live up to the hype, I think that it lived above the hype. It was absolutely fantastic. This is a no-brainer for Match of the Year, for a contendership for Match of the Year. Absolutely fantastic.
So I think when you look at this match, what you've really got is you've got two huge new factions, and one of the most interesting things that I think is nobody was hurt by the outcome of this match. There was nobody who lessened their position because they lost, because when you really look at it, this was just such a match that nobody really could come out on the back end. It's kind of like when you lose, when people used to go up against the streak, you could make a star out of losing to Undertaker at WrestleMania. And that was what the WWE did for a few years when they were trying to start to peddle some of their Edges and Randy Ortons. I mean, you had them kind of on the edge, and then you put them in a match where it's phenomenal. It doesn't matter who wins. And honestly, this is one of those matches that made the Shield that much bigger. It made the Wyatt family that much bigger. And it's weird to think that now, as we come to the end of the year, we don't have either one of those two factions here to accept the award if they would win. So,
because if they were together, they definitely would be here to accept the award. But you brought up a great point there when you mentioned that these were new factions. They weren't just new factions, new guys on the friggin' roster. A year and a half before that match that everyone was excited about, none of the six were on WWE's roster. And for them to put them in positions of importance in that amount of time, and to actually pull off something that people were hyped for, great. Now, we have John Cena versus Bray Wyatt at Payback. This was the last man standing match. Which, this is one of those situations where the announcers, they mentioned that this was like the greatest last man standing match that they've ever seen. This is one of those situations where I don't think they were overhyping it. It honestly has the potential to be exactly that.
Yeah, and this is very entertaining to watch, and I thought that the fact that it was the culmination of one of the best feuds that we've seen this year and some of the best moments that they've delivered within that feud just accentuated that experience all the more. So for me, this is, you know, a great thing. And this was the first time that we got John Cena throwing the steel steps, right? Because that was Bray Wyatt that took that bump. It was phenomenal. What I will say, it was kind of cheesy the way that it ended, although it did make sense. And people, I'm sure, are going to want to be quick to jump to the fact that this was a detriment to Bray Wyatt's career. But the reason we watch wrestling is for these stories and for the storylines and the characters and the matches and how all three of them come together. And I feel like in this match, you had two great characters, you had a wonderful storyline, and you had a match that lived up to it. Everything melded together beautifully.
Yeah, barring what happened after Bray Wyatt's match with John Cena, I think that you have to, for just this one case, live in the moment, because this was a really, really good match. I mean, there were a lot of great matches on that Payback pay-per-view, in my opinion, and this one was no different. This was a fantastic match, and definitely I can see why this is a contender for Match of the Year. This was a pretty hard year because, you know, already we have just so many, it's just hard to choose between which one of these matches. I really like this one, although the ending, it could have been 5 stars, but that ending was a little bit, it's really because I hate that song now.
Everyone talks this match up a lot, and I think it was just me and the kind of the sour taste that I had in my mouth of the particular ending spot. I thought this was kind of ridiculous to see John Cena beat him by putting him in he put him in the box or whatever, put him through the box. He put something on top of him so that he physically couldn't get out. And it almost felt like a heel move. Like, you had this guy who the storyline was supposed to be like Bray Wyatt trying to get him to do something like bad, and then you have John Cena do something like that where you could almost perceive this as something that Bray could have taken and spun it as some sort of a victory, and instead you just have him act like the whole thing never happened when he could have taken some of this and used the rest of it. Because when I look at a match, I look at everything surrounding the match as well, and I'm not going to use like who had hurt their character or anything like that. I mean, all these matches are really good. We've established that, but I just think that Bray could have used this more than he did, and honestly, that hurts me on like viewing it again. So it's not quite there, but I understand why it's nominated for me.
Triple H versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. As we all know, the stipulation for this match was that the winner went on to be in the main event of WrestleMania for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And turned out that person was Daniel Bryan. But thoughts on this match?
It was a good match.
Yeah, it was really well done. They used the entirety of the show, and they did it to its fullest potential. This match needed to open, and that's no detriment to the match. Like, this wasn't just like a good opening match. This was the best match on the card. So
yeah, it honestly could have been the main event itself.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't have like him going after the WWE Championship, I'd argue this match, with the build-up that you gave it, probably should have main evented the show if that wasn't a stipulation.
Or you could have just given Triple H the WWE World Heavyweight Championship and then killed two birds with one stone.
Of course you'd like
that. Especially in retrospect.
But then you'd actually have to put Batista back into that match because Daniel Bryan never won the Rumble, and I didn't want to see that triple threat any more than you want to see Randy Orton versus Batista.
Yeah, I know I'm being very fishy when it comes to cherry picking time and stuff like that, but hell, I said that back then. I would have liked to see Triple H walk away with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I think it was at TLC. Yeah. When he said, I'll make sure that the rightful person is champion or something like that. But yeah, as far as this match was concerned, I just watched this match recently. Like, I watched all of these matches recently, and I can't state how much Triple H was an amazing heel in this match. The way he worked down Daniel Bryan and that injury that he had, I was sitting there, and even me being taken out of that moment, I was like, damn, he is really kicking his ass. And I love the way that he incorporated so many different moves into his move set to specifically target that shoulder and work him down. But of course, Daniel Bryan comes back with the triumphant victory at the end, goes on to main event WrestleMania. This was a really, really, really good match, and I'm glad that it got a lot of attention from people, even at this point in the year where so many matches have happened since then. I'm glad that this one was good enough to stand the test of time.
Yeah, I was worried. I was really worried about this match going on first because I thought that with people with the main event, I thought people were just going to forget about it. You know, that's naturally you could expect something like that to happen. So, but I'm glad to see that didn't happen because this match may have been better than the triple threat. Not to say the triple threat was bad, but I think that Triple H versus Daniel Bryan was really good, and I'm a fan of one-on-one matches. Triple H was a fantastic heel. This guy, it kind of sucks that he's not a full-time member of the roster anymore because because anytime that guy goes out there, he is one of those wrestlers that goes out there, he just knows what he's doing. He's like one of the only guys out there that can do that. So, brilliant match with Daniel Bryan. I love the psychology with the match, and it just led to an amazing moment. So, and within the end of the night. So, I'm glad that it was a pleasure seeing this match.
And the final nominee for Match of the Year. This was a match that happened very recently. Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville for the NXT Championship at NXT TakeOver Our Evolution.
See, to me, this match doesn't belong. This match doesn't belong on the list.
It doesn't belong here.
This match does not belong
Why?
on the list. You know.
Because I literally just watched this match today, and it started off slow as fuck, Jay. This is two guys that are trying to find themselves. They weren't going out there and giving superstar performances out there. It was a good match to watch.
Yes,
I'm dead serious. It was a good match on NXT and on NXT's level. It'd be a good match in the mid-card too, but this was not a main event quality match, Jay. When we're talking about these other matches, come on now.
You're talking about a match on NXT's level. Do we really want to go there? Like, do we really want to say what NXT's level is?
If we're talking about a match of the year, though, I think about all of these matches main eventing WrestleMania. And I could see every single one of them, including the tag team matches, being a solid main event to a WrestleMania show, except for this one. I don't know if it's the fact that you've got two similar styles, but even watching it and seeing it again, it's not close to the
You've
level
got two
of the
guys
other
that aren't main eventers. They're going to be good talents in the WWE, but they're not going to be anybody that carries the heavyweight title.
Why
it doesn't
don't
matter to me
people
where they
realize this, that I do not give a damn what they are going to be in WWE. I'm looking at who they are in NXT. Like I said earlier, I don't look at NXT as WWE's developmental territory. I look at NXT as its own wrestling promotion. I don't have to think that you're a main eventer to like a match that you're in and think you were amazing in that match.
See, and that's all well and good until you want to compare it to WWE matches, namely match of the year candidates. Then you have to make that comparison, Jay.
I don't think you have to make the comparison, but it just doesn't stand up. It doesn't stand up to those matches.
If you want to make that comparison, I'll go ahead and make that comparison. Take a match like Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. I thought that was a great match, and the story between Daniel Bryan and Triple H, it was awesome. Him fighting the authority, literally the authority, to get what he desired. I thought that was great. But with Sami Zayn, it kind of told a similar story, but the greatest detriment to Sami Zayn capturing the championship wasn't any outside force. It was within himself. And I thought that was a great story to explore, and I think that they did an amazing job of exploring that in this match, and Sami Zayn being triumphant in the end, overcoming that internal struggle to win.
The best part of the match was the last 3 minutes.
See, I can understand you taking this from more of a standpoint of maybe throwing it into the future feud of the year, where you have Sami Zayn versus himself as a actual candidate for the feuds. But I don't think that this match itself stands up. Honestly, I just don't think at WrestleMania, regardless of if these guys were main eventers, they were 16-time world champions or whatever, this wasn't a main event of a WrestleMania match, and that's what it comes down to. I'd rather see the Team Authority versus Team Cena on this list. I'd rather see Randy Orton versus John Cena in the Hell in a Cell match on this list. I would. There's even the Shield Lumberjack match. Although it wasn't my favorite, I can understand why it would make not the Shield, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose Lumberjack match. I could see why those would make an argument to make it on this list. I just don't think that this match lives up to even those 3 right there, and I think that's a problem.
Okay, so not talking about the matches that aren't on the list, the ones that actually are, who is your pick, or what is your pick for match of the year?
For me personally, it has to be Bray Wyatt versus John Cena, for the sheer fact that the other matches, the tag team matches, while they were great, they had multiple different components in there that were assisting in propping up our entertainment value of it. It wasn't Roman Reigns out there by himself trying to do it, for instance. When you have a character like John Cena and Bray Wyatt comes out there and matches him in character, personality, and in what he was doing in the ring, and some of the great spots that we had, I tend to lean more in that direction than I do a tag team match where you have a ton of people in there to help the match along.
I'm going to go with the Shield versus Evolution at Payback. I thought that match was absolutely fantastic. there, even though it was a really close one, there was just so many matches where it was really hard to tell. I'm gonna have to go with that one. I mean, I would say that an honorable mention would be the Shield versus the Wyatt family at Elimination Chamber. But with this match, it being the last match we will see with the Shield, I think that gave it just a little bit of a boost. It's almost like as if they gave it a little bit of an extra effort for that match, knowing what was going to happen within the next 24 hours.
I'm going to take a page out of one of the wrestlers in this match and look at my notes to confirm that it is Shield and Evolution.
You know what? I'm going for I'm going for Sami Zayn and Adrian.
You fucking hipster.
Oh my gay.
Wait.
No offense to any
I
of our
honestly
viewers.
believe that was the best match to me. It had the storytelling, it had the action, everything went perfectly hand in hand. Not necessarily saying any other match didn't, but this one, it perfectly exemplified what I look for in wrestling. Had an emotional element, all of that good stuff.
Charlotte and Sasha Banks was better than that match to me.
So, I don't think Jay can be in charge of looking at the drug tests anymore.